This week on Bill Moyers' Journal.
Sometimes it takes fiction to help us grasp reality.
You know what the definition of insanity is? Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result.
War is insane.
Afghanistan is insane.
Oliver Stone, writer, director, soldier on War Then and Now. Stay tuned.
Funding for Bill Moyers' Journal is provided by the Partridge Foundation, a John and Polly Guth charitable fund. Park Foundation, dedicated to heightening public awareness of critical issues. The Kohlberg Foundation, the Herb Alpert Foundation, Marilyn and Bob Clements and the Clements Foundation, the Fetzer Institute, the John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation, the Public Welfare Foundation, and by our sole corporate sponsor, Mutual of America, providing retirement plan products and services to employers and individuals since 1945. Mutual of America, your retirement company. From our studios in New York, Bill Moyers.
Welcome to the Journal. A few days before President Obama's speech this week, some old friends wrote me about a death in their family. A young soldier, ordered back to war for a third tour, couldn't face it and took his own life. About the same time, I read a report based on military records which revealed that from 2003 to 2008, some 43,000 troops had been sent to Iraq and Afghanistan despite having been classified as non-deployable for medical reasons. In plain English, they weren't healthy enough to go, but were sent anyway. So I listened uneasily to the president Tuesday night. He didn't say a word about the fact that the well is running dry. We're short on soldiers. And he asked none of the rest of us to sacrifice, not even to pay for the war he says will defend us from terrorism here at home. Like George W. Bush before him, President Obama will fight this war with overworked soldiers under intolerable stress, and he will pay for it on credit in an economy already stretched to the cracking point. As Congressman David Obey said recently, the burden falls only on the soldiers and their families. Quote, they've had to go to the well again and again and again and again, and everybody else is blithely unaffected by the war. The events of this week prompted me to want to talk to a man who has been affected by the bitter experience of war firsthand and has used his artistic talents to show us what combat is like for the soldiers who wage it. Through a series of powerful motion pictures, Oliver Stone has demonstrated that fiction is often the best way to digest reality. The writer and director has been here in New York recently on the front lines of a different kind of battlefield, finishing a sequel to one of his hit movies, Wall Street.
Greed, for lack of a better word, is good.
Well, once again, Michael Douglas is playing Gordon Gekko, the character who made greed is good a mantra for the kind of high-risk, high-rollers who have suckered our economy into its current predicament. But that's not why I wanted to talk with Stone. He was wrapping his new movie just as Barack Obama was committing 30,000 more American troops to Afghanistan. And Oliver Stone's a man who knows more about what it's like to be a soldier than any other filmmaker. In 1967, not yet 21 years old, and at the height of the fighting in Vietnam, he enlisted and then volunteered for combat. He fought through the Tet Offensive and beyond. Wounded twice, he was awarded the Purple Heart twice and the Bronze Star for extraordinary acts of courage under fire. When Oliver Stone returned from Vietnam, he enrolled at New York University, studying on the GI Bill, and made this short film in which he played a Vietnam vet wandering lonely through the city. He's been wrestling with those experiences for years, expressing his feelings through a trilogy of motion pictures about Vietnam. Platoon, which won Oscars for Best Picture and for his directing. Born on the 4th of July, the story of an embittered, crippled soldier returning from war.
I served my country, and I don't want you to feel sorry for me. Do not shed a tear.
But as it had happened to our village for so many centuries, we rebuilt our lives.
And Heaven and Earth, about a young Vietnamese woman's life shattered by the fighting that devastated her country. Oliver Stone, thanks for coming.
Thank you, Bill.
Let's talk first about the president's decision. The president went to some length Tuesday night to say that Afghanistan is not Vietnam, but are there some lessons from your own experience in Vietnam that the president should be aware of?
You cannot win the hearts and minds of people if you invade their country with soldiers. Invade them with schools, with help, and the basic security required, but do not invade them with grunts who don't know anything about the local customs. The moment you send these patrols, as we did in Iraq, into villages, you offend the people. Wherever I've been in the world, I've traveled extensively. The Vietnamese wanted us out. The Afghans are happy to take our money. They know the Americans are coming. This means money. Everybody can cut a deal with the Americans. Even the Taliban can be paid by the Americans.
Well, that apparently is what the Washington hoped, that we might be able to, as with the purchase of the buy it off, as we did in Iraq.
Well, people
not inconceivable.
Well, we can buy our way through this now. At the end of the day, they'll take the money, but they'll go their own way. They're fiercely independent, as were the Vietnamese, by the way. I always thought of the Vietnamese as warrior ants. They never gave up. I don't know if you remember the slaughter they went through. We killed so many of them. But they kept coming. They never gave up because they were fierce and nationalistic. We're running the risk of alienating the nationalism of the Pashtun peoples, which is an extensive tribe in that area of Afghanistan. And they will now be offended enough to really link up with the nutcases of the Taliban so that these two groups will come together. So we will now be fighting a real war, and this will be out of our control. This will be the end. We will be sucked into a massive war where we will be bombing extensively again like in Vietnam.
Why do you think he's doing this when he had so much public support for not doing it?
Gosh, this is a key question, and I think many people are asking themselves that today. Why? I mean, he was the reform candidate, the agent of change, and here he's pursuing Bush 3 policy. I'm shocked by, I thought that he had, I know that he's an intelligent man. I know that, and many smart Americans are saying, I know he knows something I don't know. But I heard that argument all the way back to Vietnam. You know, I said, well, we must be going into Iraq, George Bush Sr., because they know something I don't know. Well, I don't believe that anymore. I really don't. I'm past that stage of my life. Iraq, too, we know that they lied to us. We know that the government is quite capable of manipulating intelligence. And who knows, in this case, what Obama is actually getting from his intelligence sources. Some of the intelligence people are against the move.
So what wiggle room did he have? I mean, you and I both know that if there were another attack on America, not from Pakistan necessarily, but from Afghan soil, Obama would be finished, and so would his party. What wiggle room did he have, given the fact, as you just said, his options were framed by the Bush-Cheney years?
Well, from Afghanistan, I mean, from the caves between, it's Pashtunistan, which would be the area, the borderlands between Pakistan and Afghanistan.
That's right.
That's where you're suggesting that the attack may have been planned there, but it was really planned by Sheikh Mohammed all over the world. He planned it in Berlin, in Hamburg, he planned it in America. They're in America. Terrorism is a disease. It can happen like cancer, like drugs. It comes from everywhere. It can come from our cities. So it doesn't have to be originating in Afghanistan. I don't believe that it will. I think that Al-Qaeda is only 100 people there left in those borders, in those caves. According to James Jones, on October, he made a statement in CNN.
That's the President's National Security Council.
National Security Advisor. There's 100 Al-Qaeda left, at best. They could not mount any serious attack. But what they do have is influence. And influence is mighty. So all the Muslim young people that are coming up all over in Canada and in America, they're the ones who may do something. And if we send 30,000 American kids, grunts, who are not special troops at all, over there into their homeland, like we did in Saudi Arabia before Iraq won, and like we did in Iraq II when we went into Baghdad, we are going to alienate those people. We're going to influence them, and we're giving a gift to Al-Qaeda's, and their influence will expand beyond what they really can do.